Right. David, it's a pleasure to have you back on the podcast again. How you doing?
Good, thanks, Adam. Yeah, it's always great to speak to you. Always great.
Yeah. No, you too. It's always great chatting to you. And yeah, I think the last time we spoke was like January time, wasn't it? So it's kind
Yes.
of I think this year is kind of flying pretty quick already.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. It is flying. Yeah, heading into spring.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And we said like the topic for this podcast, you mentioned like self-love, and I think that's a really good topic to kind of focus on
Mm,
because I think self-love is I think it's important in your life, isn't it? You know, to be comfortable in yourself, to love yourself,
mm.
and it kind of relates into like relationships with other people, doesn't it? Because it's how you are with yourself is kind of how you are with other people. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I remember growing up. Looking back, Adam, I don't think I'd had any self-love. Uh, I suppose I didn't know what self-love was, but I don't think based on my confidence at that time, and always second guessing myself and always wondering what people thought of me, and I I, I remember saying to myself, well, you don't want to challenge anyone, or you don't want to dispute what they're saying because they might not like you. So obviously there was a need to be liked, a need to be wanted and loved, uh, essentially. So if we've got that need and it's affecting our daily behaviors, then you then have to look at yourself and wonder, well, how much do I like and love myself?
Yeah, I think I can definitely relate to that because I think when I was younger at school, I think I wanted to be liked. I
Mm,
just wanted to fit in, and I would people please. I remember just people pleasing a lot and trying too hard,
mm,
and it probably comes from an insecurity, really, doesn't it, from somewhere? And I think we can often sometimes have like you said, our own kind of issues that we need to work on, but it takes kind of looking at ourselves and looking at those things.
yeah, yeah. It's I guess awareness is key. Just to even sit down and one thing I often ask clients at the early stages is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how much do you love yourself? And they're
Hmm.
sort of shocked when they hear that question, and I say, well, what number comes to mind immediately without thinking about it? And they're pretty honest, so we get a metric of it, because we're in the age of metrics, aren't we? We like our Fitbit and our steps, and we've got our the iWatches and so on. And when we can graphically or in a metric form be able to see
Yeah.
for our own eyes, it's that much more powerful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think we live in an age where self-care is talked about a lot, and I think especially in the workplace, I think I know I think it's like you said that awareness is key, like you said, and checking in with yourself and your energy levels and what what things can you do for yourself to relax. If we're not kind of practicing that self-love by whatever it is, everyone's different, but going for a walk,
Mm,
sitting down watching TV or reading a book.
mm,
It's all kind of part of it, I think. But it's like you recharge your batteries, don't you, by doing that, recognizing that. Whereas if you're not kind of loving yourself and you're not doing those things, we've all done it, we've all been there, and then we can get busy with work and stuff. But I think it's like you said, checking with yourself, isn't it? And if you're in a relationship, it kind of
mm,
relates and ties into that as well.
yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. I think if we talk about relationships, the relationship with ourself is probably the well, it is the most important relationship we'll ever have, because if that's good, then we're going to be able to have good relationships with anyone, who we deem fit to have a relationship with. So it's something that I learned over the years. I think you've frozen, Adam, or have I frozen? Right. Hey, mate.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I don't know if that was mine or yours. I've just put my thing onto 4G. It might have been either of us, but
Yeah, I'm just I put it back onto my phone now because I thought,
yeah, I put mine on 4G just in case.
hey,
Um, Sometimes my 4G is better than. Oh, right. So what I'll do is is this recording or is it stopped? Right.
recording, mate. Yeah.
Sorry, did we got interrupted there with the internet, but you were talking about like relationships.
Yes. I mean, I think the most important relationship we'll ever have is with ourselves, and if we get that right, then we become more confident in our friendships and our relationships, and that just makes us a better person. So for me, self-love, and you were just intimating the self-care. Self-care is so important because it's a form of loving ourselves. And if we all did it more, we'd probably have more time and more energy for us to be us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And do you think like it should be taught to people? Do you think something? It's not really something that people get taught. I think it's something you kind of learn through life, or unless you take a course on it. I think.
You know what? The ultimately, if it was taught as we're growing up, if it was taught by our parents or they demonstrated it to us, it would make it that much easier.
Mm,
And then failing that, if it was taught in schools, that the two resources that we have, which are most important, are our time and energy. And if we can value that by, as you say, taking time off for ourselves, not having to people please others, and going for a walk or a drive by ourselves, really, doing things that we love. So it doesn't have to necessarily be with someone else. Even, just having a bath and some music on, or you can habit stack by running a bath, getting in the bath, listening to an audiobook and learning something whilst you're there. So therefore you're resting, you're giving yourself time, and you're learning something which is feeding the brain some information. So there are many ways of doing it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you, and I think like someone said to me, um, you can't pour from an empty cup, and that always kind of stuck with me because I try. I'm like you. Like I'm busy. I'm doing stuff and working, and you're busy as well. And I think you can't be the best version of yourself, can you? If you're not doing that self care, if you're not checking in with yourself, it's you got to recharge your batteries to be able to do the things like you can do at the best kind of level. And you think of a lot of these celebrities or people who are very successful. You think if they're in a business or they've got to deliver, they can't be. Well, a lot of people do burn the candle at both ends, but you have to they surely must have to to have some downtime or time away because I think like with society and how fast things are racing and how busy life is, I think it's more and more important to kind of have self-love and check in with yourself. And like you said, if it was addressed at an earlier stage, then we probably wouldn't be kind of realizing stuff later on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, one way of just flipping it on its head really is to look at distraction. So the less distraction you have in your life, the more likely you are validating the time that you can actually take off. So imagine that you're wasting 90 minutes a day just sitting there idly looking at social media, or just flicking through emails when you don't need to. So if you waste that 90 minutes, so imagine that you could focus so finely that you're managing your time, you're far more productive, you've got that extra 90 minutes because you haven't wasted it. And that 90 minutes then could be me time. That could be something that could be watching a movie later on because you've worked hard, you've been smart, um, you've been focused, and your reward is something for yourself. So that would be one way of carving out time in your day or in your week.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you made, like to do with distractions, because I think if there's lots of distractions, we can get caught up by things. And then, like you said, if we're scrolling through the feed that we, sometimes do, or checking emails or whatever, it's that kind of compound of time, isn't it, over time? And that time could have gone somewhere else, more probably productive. And, when you mentioned that, it reminded me of, earlier, I tidied my room and I looked at my clock and I finished work and I realized, we had a podcast and I was like, oh, I need to, I allocated that time to put my clothes away and sort things out and put a bit of music on. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's like I said, I didn't have any distractions going on around me at that point. So I had more clarity around it to fit that in. But like if you're rushing around or there's things going on, it's very easy, like you said, to get caught up probably doing something else. And then that time that you could have put into something probably more positive or, for yourself, isn't it? Because it's like I remember when I worked in restaurants, it's very, very busy. You don't have hardly any time to yourself when you're working. And I remember just kind of relishing that 5 minutes just for a bit of fresh air outside.
Mm.
But I noticed that I checked in myself and I was like, if I don't get this portion of time to myself to do something,
Mm.
I can't do my job effectively. Do you recognize that, or have you kind of seen that with people at all?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the more time we waste, or the more time we save, and more we're productive, and where we recognize um, that we can make time. So if we're saving time from wasting it, we're making time for other things, and for us to actually recognize that it's a constant evolution of us, really, to try to be better. Even you can even ask yourself, what must I not do? So it's like a not do list. What must I not do this week? So on a Monday morning, right, you're going to think that this week I am not going to check my emails 5 times a day. That's so it's like, instead of a to-do list, a not-do list. So you're focused on things that you refuse to do this week. So during January, uh, for me, it was the ultimate not to. I didn't have anything sweet, so I didn't have any cake, biscuits, chocolate, nothing sugary, and it was really testing because I've got a sweet tooth, so I didn't. Through entire January, it was focused on not do. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to eat outside of certain hours. So I was on intermittent fasting, and for me, it was phenomenal. And I'm still carrying that over anyway, but I have desserts in the weekend now rather than the weekdays. So I've carried out over that habit. I've habit stacked. So I'm intermittent fasting, which I've done before anyway, and then cut down on the sugar. It's been great for weight loss because I've put a few pounds over Christmas like everyone else, but it's gone now. And then the next habit stack over that is the first thing in the morning, carve out time. So if you're going to wake up earlier, then just wake up earlier and just do something. And it doesn't have to be what people are saying, oh, go for a run. Like I go for a run, but you don't necessarily have to go for a run. Just do something, movement, to satisfy your body, because your body's been lying there for 7 or 8 hours still most of the time, and so give it water, move, do something. So you're loving yourself, because that precious moment that people have, use that moment. Absolutely use that moment, because our self-love does start with us. Instead of looking outside, it has to come from us. And sometimes we have to be ruthless. There's one thing that I always mention to people when I'm coaching them is, ruthless is not a bad word when it's used in the right context. So it's you saying, my time and my energy are non-negotiable. Unless it's life or death, and you're helping someone, it's non-negotiable. So when we have that attitude, Adam, we then stop wasting it. So we're protecting our time and energy.
Yeah. No, I think that's really key. And I think, like you said, what you mentioned was some people kind of so focused out there externally and not kind of internally. And I think sometimes we can do that, we can be so kind of focused out there on what's happening and other people and making sure probably other people are okay. I think, if you're an empath, you care about other people and you can kind of be out there. Then sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I need to do something for me. And like you said, being quite ruthless in the right areas is a good thing. And like you said, addressing that energy for yourself, isn't it? And saying this time I'm blocking out this amount of time because I need to go and do this. And I think that's really important because if you don't do that, then I remember when I think we did a podcast on burnout. You talked about like burnout and emotional burnout and stuff like that, and that can leak into that over time.
Yes, and that's another thing. Us really looking at what could happen if we don't protect ourselves. If we don't protect our time and energy, because the ultimate self-love is a conversation we're having with ourselves when we wake up to when we go to bed. But if we're saying to ourselves, "I'm not good enough," "I'm not smart enough," or "I'm too old," or "Who's going to want me?" If we're playing this dialogue with ourselves daily, all day, every day, no wonder people aren't changing at this time. Because as you know, during the pandemic, we're in the pandemic, but during the lockdowns, people have found out really what people are really like that they're living with. And a lot of people have got divorced or separated and split up because they realized that they weren't being valued, or they realized that the relationship was out of balance, and they realized that they weren't actually getting or feeling love like they wanted to. Plus, they also realized that they weren't giving themselves the love, respect that they deserve in terms of self-love and self-respect. So you had a lot of people sort of moving out, and therefore, as a consequence, you get a lot of people now living on themselves, by themselves, which then changes the narrative and changes the dialogue, because suddenly they're on their own, unexpectedly. Could be at the age of 45 years old, living by themselves, and they didn't expect it. But it's all happened in the last 2 years. That's why property prices have dramatically increased, because of supply and demand. So it's that internal dialogue which we need to change.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You mentioned like with COVID and lockdowns, like a lot of people forced into those situations, and not only even if those by themselves or with other people, you're ultimately kind of forced to look at situations, look at yourself, and it's really that kind of narrowed focus. Especially if you're with someone and you haven't spent that amount of time with them, things are going to come up. And I think some people might, when you think about self love, some people, from what I've experienced in the past, can't, don't or can't practice self love with themselves. So seek that from another person to give them that love, which then kind of puts like pressure on the person in the relationship, because there's only so much you can give, and it's quite a deep topic, isn't it? Because it channels into so many areas.
Yeah. So when we're looking at external love through validation and the need to be liked, need to be loved, and if we feel you need to tell me you love me once a day, we need to when we look for external love through posting on social media, I need people to like my post or like my video. We're looking externally. We've all done it. Everyone has done it who's on social media. Likes to be liked, because it's a form of love. It's a form of, oh, 30 people like my post. Oh, it was 80 last time. What happened? And you think about, being liked, being validated, being loved. But ultimately, it's us. We've got to send a message in the mirror every day. I like you. I love you. Respect you. I like what I see. And I'm not perfect. However, I want to work on myself and be a better version, and keep continuously doing that. To know that no one is better than me, and vice versa. I'm not better than anyone else. So that for us to actually look at that, and that's when our self-love becomes more balanced at a level which gives us this confidence to actually be ourselves. Because if we don't value ourselves, or we don't like ourselves, then we could be going to the pub to meet people, and we're acting small. We're minimizing ourselves because we don't believe in ourselves. We don't even like ourselves, so we don't feel like we want to speak up. So there's a reason why we need the love, because we are at the essence, Adam, we are pure love anyway.
Yeah.
We're energy, and that is what love is, energy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like I said, like we are energy and everything's connected, isn't it? And the love is at the highest frequency or something like that, I think. And like you said, it's almost like a discipline, isn't it? Almost. Would you say, is that the right word to call it? It's almost like a practice that we all have to partake in and do. And like you mentioned, sometimes people might feel like they don't deserve certain things, so they might partake in certain activities because that's what they think love is, if that makes sense, or self-love. But actually, it might not be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a practice. It's a practice. Us practicing self-love it's a daily practice. It's like having a shower. It's like having a bath. It's like exercising. It's like journaling or meditate. It's a practice. So us feeding ourselves love every day through something we love, because we say things like, I love tennis. I love driving. I love movies. I love food. So love is there. So why not do more of what we love? Because that's feeding our soul. That's feeding that part of us which is so deep. It's not the physical side. It's not our mind. It's that other part of us which is connecting to everyone around us. Have you ever text someone and they just text you back saying, "I was just thinking about you," or you've rung someone and they've said to you, "I was just about to ring you," because we're connected. We're connected, and the more connected we are, the easier it is for that person to actually communicate with us. But first of all, it's our own self-connection, which is important.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that it's that human connection, isn't it, with yourself, listening to yourself, almost like an antenna, and you'll be able to listen to other people more, engage with them. And I think that self love and doing what's right for you, it's definitely in the past couple of years for a lot of people, I think it's definitely shone through, hasn't it? Quite a lot. You've seen a lot of changes. There's been a lot of changes in people, in the world. People have found things that they like. And, like I said, each person is so different. So what one person might class as self-love for them is going to be different to the next. And that's okay. And I think, like you said, people need to feel comfortable in themselves and to be able to express themselves and to not worry. But you have to kind of go through those insecurities, don't you, to address things. That makes sense.
Yeah, of course. And things like when you were just making that point, you have to, when you are connecting with the outside world, people are getting more and more aware of this. But things like comparing, when we think about people compare their life to others, and it used to be keeping up with the Joneses. So it used to be at the street level, just in your own street. Now it's at the global level. You see someone on holiday and you're thinking, "I wish it was me." And suddenly you're comparing your life to them. And at that point, you might downgrade who you think you are. You might actually start putting yourself down. You might feel emotionally bad. And it's up to us to realize that we are where we're supposed to be, and we can make that change. And I'm not religious, but in the Bible it says that God's God's delays are not God's denials.
Mm.
So essentially, delays are not denials. So for the people out there, not to give up. The first thing is for them not to give up on themselves, because, as I said, we're pure love, and really, the greatest, Adam.